Okay. Obviously, I cannot talk about practice management and marketing in a matter of, well, right now we only have 9 minutes, but we'll get through this. It is important, whatever you do, is to start with a good vision, a big picture. So sometimes we get lost in very small details, but you have to ask yourself where you want to be in the next few years. So one of the exercises that I found very helpful is something called a hot pen exercise, which means I sit down and I start writing what I want to do in a year from now, where I want to be in 5 years, where I want to be in 10 years, maybe even 20 years. And you let your subconscious be the guide. You just start writing and writing and writing until you get to, and then you sort of go through all that and figure out where you want to be. Because a lot of times you don't know if you want to do hair. And we're hoping that this course has not just taught you the mechanics of hair, but also taught you and inspired you to be interested in the hair, because it can be very, very fascinating. It starts with seeing. So, you know, the iPhone started with this idea, and from that idea came something we all take for granted today. And so what you want to do, this course came from an idea. And all of a sudden now it's something that, you know, it's great that all the faculty are proud of, because we're delivering something that for all of you has good value, I hope. And so that's why all of us are here. And it starts with what's in your head. If you dream it and you think you can do it, you can do it. I listen to a lot of audiobooks when I drive. Tony Robbins calls that NET, or no extra time. So things that I'm not wasting time. I've learned different languages, etc. while I'm driving. Don't do that and don't have an accident. But I like this one story from this audiobook by Joel Osteen called Breakthrough, in which he says there are these two fishermen. And the one fisherman looks at the other guy, and the other guy's just throwing these big fish back into the water, and he's saying, why are you doing that? And he goes, well, all I have is a 10-inch frying pan. I can't fit these fish in there. So the question is, you know, how big is your frying pan? You know, what do you want? And dream what you want. And then if it doesn't work out, it's okay. But if you don't start with the end and you work only from the front, you'll never get to that destination, because you don't have any destination in mind. So that's a good part. One thing that's really important is good leadership, inspiring your staff, because the culture that's there that you develop in your own office is going to be transmitted downward. And so a lot of people think, you know, if you hire great staff, that they can inspire you. And yeah, they can, and that's a good part of it. But a huge part of this is starting from yourself. If you help work on yourself, if you deliver a better message to them, and you have a different culture that's there, and you can lead them in a way that's awesome, they will become better because of that, because I like the words I expect. And so when you expect them, and it's not just in the words but in your heart, then they are at a different level when you do that. My mentor, Ed Williams, taught me quite a bit. He taught me not through his words, but he taught me through his actions. I saw him in the operating room when the blank hit the fan. He never got upset. He just was very cool, methodical, and he continued on his way. And he was an inspired mentor, because he really taught me how to lead better. And leadership is one of those things that comes from not just reading about it, but living it. But to live it, you got to understand some of the basic principles. So I'm constantly reading all the time. So some of your homework assignments when you go home is to start with John Maxwell, if you haven't read his books. Who's read John Maxwell? Raise your hands. Okay, good. So there's a smaller percentage, but that's a good percentage. He is the easiest read. The book that's changed my life is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and of course he's got a million books out there. But he talks about how people quit people, not companies. So you join a company because it's an awesome company, but you eventually leave it because your manager sucks. So if you're a bad manager, you're micromanaging and making people feel horrible, like I'm doing to my staff, my faculty here, but you know, what you're wanting to do is, you know, believe it or not, most of my life is not about micromanagement. It's actually about giving people the ability to flourish. And I think that's very, very important, is giving that latitude. And know your own weaknesses. If you know what you're not good at, your staff knows what you're not good at. Don't be dishonest with them. They understand where you are. And also don't be too arrogant about your strengths, because sometimes they're afraid to help you with things that they think you claim significant awesomeness with. And so give yourself some latitude of being weak in front of them, because they know what those weaknesses are, and be honest with them. To me, this all starts from the very, very top, and that's an inspirational message. And so other books that I think are great is Drive by Daniel Pink, and Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And Start With Why in particular talks about People buy why you do what you do, not what you do. So of course, if what you were talking about is a wonderful product, but at the same time, what we're talking about beyond that is an inspirational message. Like, people love Apple because of the products. Well, they also love it because of the culture and the message that, hey, I want to be like that company. So an inspirational message starts backwards from just the mechanics of day to day. It's like, why are you coming to see me? So get into the message of why you do what you do. Culture is so important. I've already mentioned that before, I'm not going to get into it, but the idea is you define your culture, and that culture is transmitted on the phones, is transmitted to the way your staff behaves. And I always hear from my patients that a large reason they pick me is because of the way that my staff treats them. And I like what one guy said, I can't remember his name, he was a speaker at the Four Seasons, and he said that he is not trying to treat his clients the best, he's trying to treat his staff the best, so that his staff will then treat his clients the best. And so that transmittal is very, very, very important. This book inspired me quite a bit, The Happiness Hypothesis, and there's a reference to Csikszentmihalyi, who talks about flow. And flow is about really enjoying every moment of your life. And this is fun. I love surgery. I love hair surgery. It's actually a lot of fun. I love what I do up here on stage. This is not work for me. I don't get paid enough here to make it. No, I'm just joking. This is payment. The payment that I'm receiving right now is the enjoyment of being on stage, because I feel like I'm offering maybe even 5% of you some information that would be valuable for the rest of your life, whether it's in hair or otherwise. So if you're not happy with it, don't do it. If hair is going to be a struggle, it's not going to be the first day you're going to just love what you're doing. It's tough. Anything that's worth it is tough. But if in the back of your head you said, I had some fun with Sam, I had some fun with the staff here, the faculty here, then there is that germ where when you get over it and you master it, right? Because Csikszentmihalyi said that, mastery is that intersection between where you're still challenged, but you're also delivering greatness. You're not bored. And the thing that I want you to take home is that hair is not boring. So, if you're not happy, don't do it. This is a great book. It doesn't have any religious overtones. It says, first, be impeccable with your word. So don't gossip about other people. Don't make other people feel bad. Be clean as much as you can with your word, your spoken word. Don't take anything personally. A lot of times what happens is we hear something and it's immediately about us and how we feel about things. Don't make assumptions about other people. A lot of times we're assuming people did the worst thing. We always say we judge other people by their actions and our intentions. Oh, I'm a good person. I didn't mean anything by that. But this guy did something bad, so therefore he is bad. And always do your best. Not more than your best, not less than your best. Don't hurt yourself. Just slow down. And like my first day, I was really nervous trying to get everything done. And the second day, I try to back off a little bit, believe it or not. You probably didn't see it, but I was just trying to temper all that. And so this is just trying to pace yourself to the best of your ability. So energy is important. Learn when to say no, which is important. I think Tony and I were talking about this the other day. Know when to say no, because sometimes it's just not going to fit your life, and it's tough. Because no is such a hard word. When you look at this, you've got to weigh the full balance of something in your personal life, your professional life, and make decisions that make sense for you, your family, and for your life. And so make a composite. We're a composite organism. We're not just a machine. And so we have to make decisions that say no. When I just got married this year, I cut back, believe it or not, half of my lectures and tried to scale back my professional life. And Jim Collins, an author, talks about what's important is leaving something on the table, not just what you pull off the table. So in other words, what you don't do is as important as what you do. And focus is very important as well. Hair is not something that is a bastard stepchild of your career. If you put it as a menu item, like I do 80 things, by the way, I also do hair, and I did that at the very beginning, you'll have no business. You're going to wonder, why did you not get better? And the reason is what you're hearing from the people here is they've dedicated their whole profession to this. And so if you don't at least give it some level of commensurate desire and passion and like work, it really won't grow. You're going to wonder why nothing really happened out of this. You've got to make it happen. Your staff's not going to make it happen. No one else is going to make it happen. And it's not going to happen overnight. This is one of those things that, to climb a mountain, you're going to have to take one step, right? And to eat off an elephant, you got to eat one bite at a time. But if you don't start moving forward, you won't get there. And it's okay to take your time to get there. It's a struggle. You've heard that mentorship and coaching are so important part. And understand your audience. So like I have a separate website for my for my face, and it's more, I have a higher percentage of women that go there, so it's more emotional, it's more understanding the artistic side of things. And then, you know, I have about 80% of my patients are men for hair, so it's more technical, it's details. What do we do differently? What, you know, why are your results natural, etc. And education is critical. I love education. I've learned a lot here. You know, it's hard to be educate myself because I'm running around trying to keep things organized, but believe it or not, I've actually learned quite a bit of small things, and that's the small things are the things that make a difference. So a lot of times people don't go to meetings because they say, you know, I've heard it all. But you know what I'm trying to do when I sit through 30 meetings or 30 lectures is that one small gem that's there that will blow my mind, that will completely change my practice over the next 20 years. So that small little detail. And I know for all of you guys out there that have that same mindset, you understand me, but those that don't, I encourage you to do it, to try to get into the mindset of pulling away a pearl or two, and that make justifying your whole reason to be at a meeting. I was having lunch with one of my colleagues, and I talked to her and I said, I bet you haven't been to a meeting in about 3 to 4 years. And she said, yeah, how did you know? I said, because you sound like you're in a different decade. And but that is really, when you don't go to a meeting and for a little while, you know, like the ISHRS meeting, if I miss a meeting, I feel antiquated. And you think, well, hair doesn't change that much. I will challenge you and tell you, you should try to go to every meeting because there is so much information. And the one thing I'll tell you is I'm trying to speak less and listen more. At this meeting, I can't do that, but at most of these national meetings, I want to be off the podium because I don't learn anything hearing myself. You know, I've heard myself talk enough. I like to hear other people. So try to really get in and learn as much as you can. I think that's so important. The USP means unique selling proposition. What makes you different? And if you don't know what makes you different, try to figure it out. Are you offering more of a boutique atmosphere? Are you working on more ethnic patients? Or is it more women? Are you offering a different technique? Try to figure out why a patient should choose you and look into those elements and make that a differentiator, because right now the market is a competitive one. And so if you can start finding things, what we call long tail strategies, things that if you think about the internet, you can be an expert at multiple levels. People think, no, you can only do one thing. But the person on the line is searching that long tail. In other words, searching you down that line and saying, oh, this is this person that has a lot of Iranian hair restoration, all right, or Iranian noses, for example, or I don't know, Asian hairlines. So work with developing even multiple small USPs if possible. And work is important. You've got to do the work. And that's the hard part of this. But if you know what Steve Jobs said, and I do love Steve Jobs despite some of his demeanor, you know, he says that if you don't love it enough, it's not worth it. You know, and so what I can't teach you how to do hair in about 3 or 4 days. What I can do is to teach you in the back of your mind and back of your heart to say, you know what, I thought this was going to be boring and tedious and just another profit center. But now you find, you know what, it can be challenging, it can be fun, it can be interesting, creative, and thoughtful. And so those are the elements that I want you to think about. So I'm going to leave you with the heart of this, and really it starts not with the mind, because the mind will misguide you. It's starting with where your heart is. And so I leave this quote with you, which is from Steve Jobs' commencement address at Stanford in 2010. You've got to find what you love. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you really believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. This is your life that you're living, no one else's, and it's going to be an amalgam of personal and professional elements. Thank you. Okay.